Can anyone beat Red Bull and Max? Is McLaren going to have a good result for once? And finally, who the hell's on the podium? Let's find out. This is the F1 Debrief. So it was another dominant performance by Red Bull with another 1-2 for the year. This time around though, it was Perez over Verstappen. The race was okay. It wasn't too exciting. I feel like it was way too overhyped, as we had a great qualifying, which promised a great race, which unfortunately didn't deliver. We were given one safety car, thanks to Lance Stroll parking it up. I can't remember where, but he was definitely well off the track. However, the FIA brought out the safety car anyway, which obviously bundled up the field. Alonso actually ended up getting a 5-second time penalty because of a grid spot drama, but he was able to serve that during the safety car period. There was a few battles. It was not the most exciting race. There wasn't really wow moments. So without further ado, we're just going to have a quick look at the results. So, as you see here, Sergio Perez, as I said, managed to win. He finally managed to win this race. Of course, last year he got a pole, but he got screwed by the safety car. This time actually worked in his favour. Second place, Max Verstappen. Now, there's actually a lot of... there's an interesting thing going on with these two. I feel like we're going to be seeing a Hamilton versus Rosberg-esque sort of thing here. Because basically, for people who aren't Verstappen fans, Sergio Perez is your only hope for winning the championship. And I feel like it's going to get heated, I reckon. Because towards the end of the race, Perez was on the radio all the time asking, who's done the fastest lap and are we pushing, are we slowing? And it was very cryptic from both sides. And I think Max didn't know the fastest, they wouldn't tell Max the fastest lap. So there was a bit of a competition between the two, and seeing at the end, Perez was actually quite disappointed to find out that Max actually stole the fastest lap from him. Who can blame him? Now, third place is officially Fernando Alonso. Of course, he had a really good run. He's really happy with the car. On the radio, he seems as happy as he could be. However, as I said, he actually got a penalty for parking too much on the left-hand side of his grid box. But when he went to serve the penalty, he actually received another penalty due to the fact that the jack dude, I don't know, what do you call them? The ones that lift the car up actually lifted him up before he was meant to. But the problem is with this, now I'm just quickly get into this, the penalty was just stupid in my opinion. The FIA needed to do a better job with this part. So basically, if you don't know, what happened is he actually was on the podium, he celebrated, he got the trophy, sprayed the champagne, all the podium stuff. But literally after that, he was told that he got a 10-second time penalty, which resulted him in fourth. But then later on, he was, given third position back. So I don't know what the hell is going on there. And Fernando was pretty animated about it, and rightfully so, because he at the time he wasn't really fast, but he did mention that they had 30 odd laps to decide if that was a penalty or not. So that was wrongdoing on the FIA on their behalf. But luckily, Fernando was able to keep his third place finish, which is also his 100th career podium. So of course he joins the list of talented drivers there. And I'm really excited about Aston Martin this year. After a good result this weekend, it's really promising that They've got the real. Their pace is real, and it's not just a fluke. And I'm also excited to see a epic battle between Aston Martin, Mercedes, and Ferrari this year. I reckon that's going to be pretty cool between the three. Now, speaking of Mercedes, we've got George Russell officially in 4th position, which is good to see the Mercedes guys back up once again after a disappointing Bahrain Grand Prix. George Russell had a good amount of pace, especially I think on the hard compound. Lewis Hamilton, who finished 5th behind him, struggled a lot to get temp and mechanical grip on those hard tyres. He actually started on the hards, whereas majority of the field started on mediums. George Russell was also actually told to let Lewis go at one point, but Russell actually, denied that and just took off basically, and then he set a massive gap on Lewis. And originally on the radio, they didn't actually tell him Fernando had already served his penalty. He was under the impression that he was yet to do it, so he was keeping a gap number sort of thing. But he wasn't. He was pretty animated when he found out that Fernando already did it. But I've also another thing as well. When I said Hamilton struggled, he's been struggling a lot in the car. We've seen a lot of things on the media about how uncomfortable he is. I feel like Russell, on the other hand, is actually, it's not a fast car, but he's a bit more comfortable with it, it seems, because this isn't the first time he's out raced Hamilton before, but they do need to, they don't belong there, but it's a better result this weekend than the other week. But it was a bit sad seeing the Red Bull, Max Verstappen just breeze past Lewis Hamilton, which is insane compared to when we saw it in 2021 with all that drama that happened. So it's a surreal feeling just seeing how easy he was passed. So he wouldn't have liked that for sure, Lewis Hamilton, that is. 6th place and 7th place was a disappointing day for Ferrari. Although in saying that, both cars were finally in the points this time around. Charles Leclerc was able to finish a race this year so far. No failures there. They don't belong there. They belong, they belong fighting against Red Bull, but obviously Red Bull are in another league at the moment, which makes it even harder. So it's just realistically, it's just the battle of second in the constructors, really. But very disappointing weekend for both of the Ferrari drivers. It didn't look like they had much pace at all. Charles looked pretty quick on the softs, but he was racing against medium compounds and hards. But he sort of just backed off towards the end there. 8th place, Esteban Ocon. Good work by him, as well as teammate Pierre Gasly, to both be in the points. Kevin Magnussen also rounding up the top 10 for Haas, getting 1 point after he snatched it from Yuki Tsunoda in 11th. Not a bad race for him. It's good to see him finally in the points again after a very disappointing Bahrain Grand Prix. Nico Hülkenberg's teammate, 12th. 13th place is Zhou Guanyu. It's not a bad race for him, better than his teammate for sure. He did some good moves on throughout the race, especially on one of the Williams. Nick De Vries, 14th place for AlphaTauri. 15th was Oscar Piastri. He did really well with the tools he had. This weekend was going pretty well for him. Of course, in FP3 he was in the top 10, and yet again in qualifying he actually made it into qualifying 3 for the first time in 8th. But unfortunately on lap 1 he suffered damage onto his right part of his front wing, which obviously they had to pit for repairs. But after that point he was basically nowhere for the whole race. Now that's nothing to do with Oscar. It's just McLaren has just been nowhere this year, and unfortunately it's as Niki Lauda once said, or at least in Rush, it's a shitbox at the moment, and that's exactly what it is, unfortunately. And but in saying that, Oscar had a really good battle with Lando Norris, as well as Logan Sargent and Nick de Vries. But unfortunately, that doesn't matter because, McLaren shouldn't be in the bottom 15. They should be in the top 5 or top 10, where they belong. So this is very disappointing. But it's great to see Oscar drive really well and outrace his teammate. Even he actually battled Lando pretty well, actually. He went, I think, down the inside of him on the final corner and managed to get him. But then Lando was able to get DRS on him. So it was cool to see a little battle between the two. But yeah, they don't deserve to be where they are now. We want you to do better, McLaren. Logan Sargent in 16th for Williams. His teammate unfortunately didn't finish the race. Lando Norris, as I said, 17th after battling with Oscar Piastri. He also actually got wing damage on the same lap, different collision. So he was unfortunately nowhere as well. And speaking of nowhere, what a day for Valtteri Bottas. Very disappointing for him. I was really hoping he would do well. He did alright last Grand Prix, but unfortunately today was not his day. And Alex Albon is the first of the non-finishers for Williams. He suffered a brake drama. Now I'm not too sure what exactly was going on. They did say that physically it looks fine, but it could be maybe a wire or something like that. I'm not too sure. But unfortunately that ended his day. You kind of need to stop around here, so, And last but not least, Lance Stroll, after having a epic start in making a move of a lifetime, going on the outside and actually getting it to stick. I think it was on Carlos Sainz. It was such a beautiful overtake. And then a little bit later on, he actually ended up retiring from the race. Still not too sure why, I can't remember. But that actually ultimately brought out the safety car, which was also ridiculous as well. But it is what it is. But unfortunately he couldn't finish, but at least it puts less strain on his wrists, so he can be more prepared for Australia coming up. Alright, so let's have a quick look at the championship results. So for the drivers, we've got Max Verstappen 1 point ahead of teammate Sergio Perez. In third place, we've got Fernando Alonso. Fourth is Sainz. Fifth, Hamilton. And then Russell in 6th. 7th is Stroll. Leclerc is 8th. Bottas is 9th. And then Esteban Ocon is 10th. Gasly is in 11th, followed by Magnussen and Albon. And then Yuki Tsunoda in 14th. Nico Hülkenberg is 15th. And then we've got Logan Sargent and Zhou Guanyu in 17th. Nick de Vries, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris rounds up the 20. And it's very disappointing to see Lando Norris down below. He receives so much hype. I don't know how long he can handle McLaren, to be honest. If they keep performing like this, I won't be surprised that he leaves the team. Not where he wants to be, especially at the start of the year. Quick look at the constructors. We've got Red Bull leading the way, followed by Aston Martin, and then Mercedes, Ferrari, Alpine, Alfa Romeo, Haas, Williams, AlphaTauri, and again, McLaren rounding up the 10. Now, of course, in a fortnight time, we've got the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne. The second time we see them at Australia. Of course, 2020, they unfortunately had, the COVID saga happened and they couldn't go there. 21, the event never happened. So it's glad to see them back in full swing once again. Now I think this is going to be the fastest Australian Grand Prix. I think they're actually going to add an additional DRS zone So that'll be interesting to see. Hopefully there's going to be plenty of overtakes around that circuit. And in my opinion, for prediction wise, my top 5, I reckon it's going to be Red Bull 1-2. Surely we're going to see Verstappen. I reckon he's going to bounce back from today and win the following Grand Prix, followed by let's go Fernando Alonso, and then Perez. It's kind of hard to not put the Red Bulls in those top 3 positions. The car is just insane. What Adrian Newey has done with the design, what everyone in the team has done with their car, is just on another level. Especially their DRS. I want to point out their DRS is just so strong. You get an additional 17 miles per hour on once the DRS is activated, and they've just been Red Bull rockets all year so far. But it'll be interesting to see if they can continue this pace as the year goes on, especially with less wind tunnel testing. But we'll see how we go. But yeah, as I said, Verstappen P1, followed by Alonso, and then Perez 3rd. Then I'm going to say Russell again, but I'm going to reckon Leclerc will split the 2 Mercedes, I reckon, in 5th. Well, that is my quick review of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. I'm going to give it, overall, in terms of racing, a 6.5 out of 10. It wasn't a boring race, but it wasn't the most exciting, and I believe it was overhyped after qualifying yesterday. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think, and stay tuned for more pods coming up. Of course, we've got the Australian Grand Prix, so I'll be doing a debrief there, but I'll also be doing a Supercars report as well, which is on the same weekend, so busy fortnight ahead. Well, that's all from me. Have a good night, and bye for now.